is going to happen, and that's what you pick up on.
That's our supposition.
Okay.
And that's what we attempt to do.
That's pretty tricky business, Clif.
It's tricky business, but we make the assumption that we live in a highly organized... Well, we actually have a number of assumptions that there's evidence behind. We live in a highly structured universe. There's weirdnesses within the universe. The universe is self-balancing, which allows for a certain amount of slop. And we can pick up and have demonstrated that we've picked up linguistic clues to what will occur in the future, so there's no reason to suppose that this would dry up just because we were looking at a particular subject line or something. However, you have to know we do not pick up conscious impressions.
You don't pick up...
No, I don't care that someone writes out there, I think the economy's going to crash or the dollar's going to dive or something like this.
Right.
What we actually look for are references in gardening forums, for instance, or for other things where you might see some hint of an archetype which actually goes towards interpersonal transfer, which is the top level of archetype in human to human, and then it goes down, and eventually we would narrow it down towards currency, and we would say, lots of people in weird forums relative to, snake handling, bread baking, and gathering seaweed are all of a sudden looking at archetypes that are relative to currency. What's up?
Looking at archetypes, explain what that means, looking at archetypes of currencies.
Well, okay, say that you're in the business of gathering seaweed.
Okay.
And for most of the time of the year, you go online and you spend, X number of hours discussing with other people who gather seaweed the various elements of the seaweed business. Mm-hmm. But you'll find that in these discussions, rarely do the people that are sort of quasi-competitors, quasi-cooperators ever really get in and discuss money per se. They're usually discussing, environmental impacts and so on that may have peripheral aspects, but you don't usually see them in there discussing the price of the seaweed on the open market. Mm-hmm. But you will occasionally find them start discussing ancillary terms that also relate to money, wealth, and so on. So if you were to take a thesaurus and you were to put in there money, and you were to sort of backwardly take it up the chain, you would see that money would go perhaps, if you went down and drilled down on money, money would become paper, particular notes, U.S. note, Euro note, and so on. If you drill back on money, you would see that money goes to currency. Currency has all these ancillary associations, but that goes back to wealth. Wealth, again, goes back to family, safety, surety, caring for, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're in there typing away in your seaweed gathering forum and you happen to say, just happen to write in there, I'm concerned about Aunt May's health. And you're writing this in a more or less open forum, but you're writing it to people that know that you have this Aunt May and so on. You'll see this happening all the time, these kind of personal references. That individual within that forum has just expressed an archetype relative to health, relative to family with the Aunt May connection. We've now got that connected to that particular activity that this person does, and if we find that there's lots and lots and lots of people within that activity expressing these same archetypes, then we start paying attention. Wow. And I sure hope that makes sense.
Wow, yeah, it does. So let's see, then if I understood what you're saying, you're actually... do you feel then, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that as soul, as spiritual beings, we know a lot more than what we're conscious of, and that does come out into the way what we speak and what we say? Okay,
yes, you're correct in phrasing how I view things. My view of the planet is formed by the experience that I've had. I'm not this body. I'm not the personality, which is why I could give a shit about, about cult of personality or so on. Okay, but I am the total sum of all of the experiences I've had. So I am the experiencer. And in my view of universe, every experiencer knows 100% of what's going to happen in the future for their whole life and probably for most of the lives of the people they will contact. However, it does not come through in our little conscious mind, consciousness with a small c. But big consciousness with a large C, knows because consciousness is all that there really is. There are no such things as little rocks whizzing around that we call electrons. That's a bogus view of the reality that we live in. And as long as you start with the assumption that material world is permanent and material world exists as little hard things that are self-enduring, you're on the wrong trail. You need to see the world as energy. The whole universe is nothing but a giant ball of energy, and it's all vibrations at all these various different levels. And of course, if there is vibrations, if I'm correct, and it is all vibrations, then it's instantly easy to see why you could pick up a vibrational wave that we would think of as time, and thus you would know what would happen in the immediate future.
That's Clif High, Patrick Timpone, One Radio Network. Wow. You previously stated, this is Rick email from Chicago, I believe, you were going to buy a house. If I were going to buy a house, it would be better to take half and buy silver. Would taking half and buying gold be as good? You seem to have a preference for silver.
Well, the only reason I have a preference...
This may be a question for tomorrow, but go ahead.
Okay, the only reason I personally have a preference for silver is because I'm poor. I can't afford gold. Gold's expensive stuff. If you've got the money, more power to you.
It's almost $1,200.
Yeah, exactly. But it stores, the same amount of silver would be larger, and so it'd be easier to store the gold, certainly, and they will both appreciate. There is a curious thing, though. Within because we do analysis, I don't put this stuff out there just as, this isn't like channeling where you just let the stuff flow through and you put it out on the net and be done with it, right? We get this stuff for our interpretations, and I'm not going to put it out there unless there's some realistic probability that this kind of thing could occur. So I go and I do analysis based on formulas that were first established by Buckminster Fuller in the late 20s and from 1928 through about 1934 with his Global Survey of Resources. Using that formulistic approach, I've discovered some discrepancies between the amounts of silver and the amounts of gold, and the industrial uses of silver versus the industrial uses of gold, and the planned hyperdimensional free energy kind of need for silver versus gold. And I'm of the opinion that sometime in the near future, and that near future might be 3 years, might be 2 years, might be 6 months, I just don't know, there's going to be a shift in the relative placement of gold and silver. That is to say, right at the moment, it might be 70 ounces of silver for 1 of gold. I just don't know what it is. I don't do that math. But it's a huge number. And it's going to go back to about 12 to 1 relative silver to gold, and it may even drop much below that if it becomes critical that we have silver for these industrial processes for the whole anti-gravitics, free energy, that kind of thing. And so thus silver may suddenly become really neat stuff to have.
Yeah. And of course the health uses of silver, that's growing in popularity.
Oh yes, right? Oh yes, no question there.
Yeah. 888-663-6386. Hi, what's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, good morning. My name's Jeanette. I'm calling from Truckee, California.
Truckee, California. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning, Cliff. Thank
you
so much. Been following you for a few years now. And mine actually dovetails on that silver question. And I was just wondering, because you didn't really state in the last reports kind of where you thought it was going to end, do you still see that max silver price? But you kind of answered that in a way. And then the other question I have is, so is that max number, I forget, I don't know, I'm not looking for an exact number, but like high, 5,000, whatever it was, still in play? 2, will there be time to convert before, from what I'm reading from you, it's really not the monetary gain. We're headed for stuff much more dire.
That's my
I'm
opinion.
like, okay, well, I have time to convert, the timing. I don't know how to say that.
And Jeanette and Cliff, there's also a question, say silver goes, say, to $1,000 an ounce, what's $1,000 going to buy?
That's
Correct.
the issue. That's the issue,
That's
right.
an
And I've
issue.
got a lot of my friends here, and especially these people that have been with me for years reading my stuff that are silver and metal traders. And I keep pointing out to them, you're going to get caught out because there won't be the ability to make this transfer or this trade. So, yeah, you'll have the silver, and you could convert it to some astronomical number of dollars, but the dollars won't buy anything, and you may not find anybody who really wants to give it to you. I look back to the 1930s and the previous Great Depression. There were counties in the U.S. that were so poor for currency, they could not provide change out of that whole county for a single $5 silver piece.
It's interesting. That's what my mom said. She said there just wasn't any money. Literally, there wasn't money.
Right.
Because they cut off the spigot.
If you're following, there's a lot of different views, but so you're preparing for calorie-based. You're doing all these different stuff. If you have, say you have, a bunch of silver hoarded in your, in your dog's bed or something.
Right.
And,
that's a good spot, yeah.
Could you, do you see in the linguistics that people are going to be able to trade out? Because I think the goal is that you would trade out into notes, and then you would get more stuff, pay off more.
That's the way the linguistics go. They actually do not show us being in a situation where trading for ferns, for Federal Reserve notes, is meaningful. They do show a position where we're trading silver for cows or, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that would argue for, like silver dollars, for example, so you had an ounce where you wouldn't have big chunks of bars, which Andrew argues against because maybe somebody doesn't want 100 ounces of silver bar.
Or couldn't
Or
get
what are
the
you going to do
change
with
to
it?
begin with.
Yeah,
Correct,
and
correct.
then they might not even know it's real. That's why Andrew argues for this real money. Because
and then just one quick follow-up is, when do you see the time frame of that? Do you see it, is it like July, November, January?
Everything starts breaking seriously with the crocodile teeth in July.
This July?
This July, on the 11th.
Wow.
We actually had a precursor on currencies. Expected. We knew there was going to be a pre-echo of whatever was going to hit us in late July, early August, and that pre-echo would show up in the late February, first part of March. I really don't need to go into why we knew about it, but the echo showed up as relating to currencies. At that time, Greece had its real problems. Greece started threatening to redo the drachmas. There were rumors out that they were going to start reissuing the German mark. The EU was in trouble because of the Greece situation, and we see all of the derivatives start piling up. And so that whole trend, if you look at what's happening right now, is being fulfilled. So I expect a lot more language relative to currency and corruption in late July through August.